Welcome to Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. Legal issues simplified through real client stories and real-world experiences. Creating simplicity in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to our first episode of Season 1 of the Legal 123s with ByrdAdatto. I'm your host, ByrdAdatto, with my co-host, Michael Byrd.
Thanks, Brad. This season, we have an incredible lineup of stories that we cannot wait to share. Our theme for Season 1 is thinking inside the box. And with everything that's been going on in the world, you know, Brad, a pandemic.
I've heard of this.
Yes. Well, all of us as human beings gravitate towards the things that we can control when things are out of control. And so we think there's nothing better than having this theme of thinking inside the box, because for your business, if you can control the controllables, which is how you run your business and how you stay compliant, you're at least doing the things that you can when everything else is chaotic.
Very cool. Well, and not only did we have this Season 1 that Michael just described, but we decided to break up our opening episode into 2 episodes, 2 parts, that is. So Part 1 is being released today, July 1st, and Part 2 would be released on July 3rd. And also, before we get started, a big shout out to all our fans who have been giving us 5-star reviews. We're very thankful for that. And we especially want to thank ABBC 1999 and Woolen Socks for writing such great reviews on our first episode titled Our Story. If you haven't listened to it, definitely recommend you do that. But Michael, let's get started with episode 1.
Thanks, Brad. As a business and healthcare firm, we meet a lot of interesting people and learn their amazing stories. And today we're going to take a journey through a trail of tears. Does that sound fun?
Yes.
We're going to discover the basics of medical spa compliance, which usually starts with tears but ends with tears of joy once they understand.
Absolutely. And so, you know, as everything in life, we like to bring our friends along with us. And we're super pumped that on our first episode, we have our friend and partner, Alex Tierce, joining us.
Before I introduce Alex, I've got a fun observation, and I have a feeling this will come and be relevant to our episode here in a little bit. Our longtime friend and client, Grant Stevens, told me a few years ago, I think we were talking about cool sculpting, but he said that the term cool as a slang term is unique in the sense that it means the same thing to our grandparents, our parents, and even our kids, and that it's hard to find a slang term that stands the test of time like that.
That is cool.
Very, very meta, Brad. Very meta. We are going to introduce Alex Tierce, who many of you may know. It's a long bio, so I apologize in advance, Alex, and I have to distill this down. But Alex Tierce is a partner of ByrdAdatto, first and foremost, and I guess secondly, if not co-first, he is the founder of the American Med Spa Association. Alex went to undergrad at the University of Iowa, graduated from DePaul University College of Law. There's a Midwest theme there. That's why he is the managing partner of ByrdAdatto Chicago office. And for the early chapter of Alex's career, he was an employment lawyer. And we'll get into it a little bit today. We'll learn how he stumbled into the world of healthcare law and particularly medical spas. And then Alex himself has his own podcast, the Medical Spa Insider podcast. Brad and I have been a guest of that many times. It is awesome. You should check it out. And I guess finally, most importantly, probably to Alex, is his passions are his dogs and perhaps even more importantly, Michael Jordan.
Yes. You can throw cats and Scottie Pippen in there as well. My wife comes in a distant fourth.
Okay. Well, so you heard us talking, Alex, about the history of cool. I know AmSpa's hashtag is compliance is cool. So did your grandfather teach you that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, things have been cool for a long time. That's an interesting point. You know, because it's not only does it mean the same thing, but it's translated over the years. I mean, you don't hear us saying like hip or jive or whatever the old words were, but And by the way, if you're ever looking to condense my bio, I go by international player. That's all you got to say. But I appreciate you guys having me on this. It's going to be fun. I'm glad that you guys are doing it. I think it's going to be a lot of really good information. People need it. We do the AmSpa podcast is about all things kind of aesthetics, and we do a lot of compliance work. But this, I think, to have a legally focused podcast, I think is going to be even better. So kudos to you guys.
So Alex, tell us how an employment lawyer ends up starting a trade association for medical spas.
I was as I was getting ready to come on, I was thinking about that, and it's a very interesting, lurid story, but not very exciting. The truth is that when you think about for anyone who's opened a business or who's even got any type of experience underneath them in their careers, it's funny to think where you end up versus where you thought you'd end up, right? I mean, it's just often it's a completely different place. And so I had quit my job at a corporate firm where I was doing litigation, and I knew the minute that I started working that I was just not going to be able to work for somebody else forever. So I was there for that was probably, going on 8 years or so. Decided to quit and open my own firm. That's when we brought on our good friend Renee Coover, who you all know very well. And so we were kind of hustling and just doing employment law, mostly on the plaintiff side. So we were suing people for wage act infringement violations, sexual harassment, things like that. And I knew very quickly that was not the way that I was going to go. Litigation, Michael, you've done litigation in the past, and it's just it's so emotionally exhausting and draining. So as part of that process, though, we were, I was picking up clients, and my original partner had this client who was an RN from Illinois, and came to us with this story that she was being investigated by the state of Illinois, the IDFPR, for her nursing license arising out of her ownership and functioning in what she called a medical spa. And it was a medical spa and laser center. I had absolutely no idea what this was. No idea. I had not even touched healthcare law or regulation at all outside of my litigation practice. So we kind of co-counseled with this woman who was a regulatory attorney, and she helped us kind of navigate through this. And I didn't really do a whole lot in that case because it wasn't my expertise, but I just kind of watched and listened. And as part of it, I befriended and started talking to this RN who was the owner of this med spa, and she introduced me to this whole world of medical spas. And this was back, this is 2007, maybe. This is a long time ago, before the recession, before the first recession, I should say. And she was killing it, like $2.5–3.5 million a year in revenue. And that's back then, which is tremendous now. And she had lasers and she had all these clients. She was very popular. She was a whiz at marketing. She had like this whole retail store. She was selling jewelry and all kinds of stuff. But after taking a look at the law, I realized very quickly that she was completely non-compliant. She was owned incorrectly. She wasn't doing the proper consultations. She wasn't able to, she was practicing medicine. Fortunately for her, the IDFPR was as confused as I was and didn't seem to know what was going on and just kind of dismissed the whole thing after we got her kind of set up correctly. But I realized that there was, at least in Illinois, there was this need for regulatory help for medical spa owners. It was a huge industry. It was growing so fast. And so that's kind of how it started. It started with the Illinois Medical Spa Association, which is the first iteration, and it was local. And I did it just to try to get more med spa clients because I figured I could help them with their compliance work as I was learning how to do it. But that quickly morphed into something much bigger when I went to a conference. And I got people from Michigan, California, Indiana, Wisconsin, New York saying, "Hey, you got to do this for us too. You got to do this for us." Because this is when Renee and I had gone back and literally summarized the laws in all the states we could find just to find to start gathering the information. And that's kind of how it started. And it went from there. And I do remember there was kind of over the course of about 3 to 6 months, we brought on another person, and it started to grow. And we, like, overnight, we had like 15 members who had paid for this information. And that was kind of like the light bulb moment for me. The second light bulb moment for me being when we hosted an event where we had, I think we got 15 or 18 people to come, and they were paying like $40. And I was like telling them the basics of the corporate practice of medicine, and they had no idea what I was talking about. That's really where it all started. And, it's ballooned from there. Meeting you guys was the next step, and here we are.
You said corporate practice of medicine. So for the audience who's been listening, we'll get to what that means in a second. So don't fret if you don't understand what he means by that.
And I just have a clarification question. You weren't laughing at them for paying you to teach them about this, were you?
I mean, no, not explicitly, at least. I mean, I was definitely chuckling, but I remember like sending out emails just constantly, like spending, 4 hours a day looking up like RN injectors and medical spas and just reaching out to them and saying, hey, I'll give you $20 off the normally listed price of $50. And, getting a couple $100. I actually had also reached out to one of the reps at the IDFPR and got them to come over and speak. So it was a cool little event, but man, you think about what we're doing now and it's totally different.
Well, the funny thing is that there was such a lack of information about the law that even the basics that you would have provided would have been, revealing to them, because there was literally nothing out there as to how they were regulated.
No, I mean, you're right. You guys know this too, but back then, like, just telling a nurse that she couldn't own was one thing where their jaws would drop, because and we still see that now. But then this idea that they couldn't do an exam and inject a patient without the doctor seeing the patient first was totally mind-blowing to them. They could not understand how that was possible. Given that everybody was doing it. So this was back when, we still do this from time to time, but I really scared people back then. People had no idea. And I had a lot of RNs and nurse practitioners and doctors, including plastic surgeons, who just got angry at me, said I didn't know what I was talking about. This couldn't be true. And it really was just like, this is where it became a time when, okay, we've got to figure out how to educate these folks, because with the amount of money coming in, you could sense it. I would like to think I'm this smart, perceptive guy, but really it was fairly easy to recognize this massive industry, this massive population of people who want these treatments and the help they needed. So
yeah. And I think if I remember correctly, though, when you first had this idea, the idea was spawned on, hey, this is a great feeder for my law firm. And that's how you kind of started it.
That's selfishly all it was I figured I'll get some clients. If I need to get somebody to come in and run it, that's fine. But it just was it was a way to feed my my fledgling law firm. But I soon realized that it was the potential was a lot more, and there was a lot more there. And that's when we embarked on this search to find you guys. This is like my long lost loves of the universe. My soulmates were out there, and I tried to find you through, it took me about 3 or 4 years, and a couple other different partners that I had to get divorced from. But eventually it was a match made in heaven.
All started in Vegas.
Yes.
All started in Vegas, like most things in my life.
Right.
Yes.
And so, Alex, let's take a little bit deeper dive. So the sense of, you had this place that you started up, you were super pumped because you saw it as a means of getting potential clients to your law firm. And then, as you already kind of started articulating, you quickly realized there was a lot more to it. Maybe you can kind of give, for those who aren't familiar with ANSPA, like some background. What are you guys doing right now? What is ANSPA? What does it do?
Well, so we still do very much the same thing that we did before. It's interesting because the value proposition is still the same, in that we provide legal and business resources for medical spas and medical aesthetic practitioners. So the main thing that we do is we have waded through the various regulations in all the different states, summarized them in a way that hopefully is understanding to the average person, and put them on our website that our members can access. So, and what we found was, number one, we were one of the first movers to do that. So, our SEO and our search engine, the way you find us on the internet has been great. If you're looking for information on a law or what you can do in a med spa or what the rules are, we pop up because we've populated that. So that's that's what we do. We've moved into doing a lot more business training in events. We've become an event focused business, but mainly it's education and compliance training for med spa practitioners. But we also are also a trade group. So we are advocates, and we represent the industry and bring them together.
So, Alex, what I love about AnSpas is you've gone not only past what you originally envisioned, which is, hey, this is going to be something that's a referral source. No, we're going to be more of an educational resource. But you've gone more to full boat trade association, where when things happen in states that are objectionable, y'all jump in. And I'd love for you to talk about just Texas and Ohio, just the states that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, it's been fun like that, and we got to a point where we were big enough and we were growing fast enough, and I could see that this was there was a need for it. Where I basically stopped practicing law. I still obviously have my license, and I do occasionally, but that gave me the time to really focus on building the association as an influencer and as an influencing voice and as an advocate. And so we have started. In the past year, or a little bit longer than a year, getting into some advocacy. In Texas, there's obviously been a lot going on that I'm sure you'll talk about, and the folks listening probably know about. And so we have a lobbyist down there that we're working with to work on some legislation. We've gotten involved in Ohio. We've gotten involved in Illinois and some other states as well. There's some stuff going on. There's a lot of things going on all over the place. And so we now have a full-time attorney who helps track this stuff. We've got legislative tracking software where when things pop up, we step in and offer our opinion and try to promote the industry. So we are a full blown association. We've got over 3,000 members. We just passed 3,000 members the other day. So it's been a crazy. We went from 24 to 3,000, and it only took like 6 years.
That's amazing. So let's pause for a moment and collect our thoughts. We really have been listening to a story that kind of exposes a lot about the med spa world. And when we get to episode 2, we'll dive a little bit deeper into the laws and how the medical spa laws work across the country.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear episode 2, just because we'll get to address the second part of this with Alex. And for those of you who want to make sure you listen to it on July 3rd, make sure you subscribe so when the episode is released that you'll be able to know that it is out there for you. So looking forward to part 2, guys. Thanks again for joining us today. And remember, if you like this episode, please subscribe, make sure to give us a 5-star rating, and share with your friends.
You can also sign up for the ByrdAdatto newsletter by going to our website at ByrdAdatto.com.
ByrdAdatto is providing this podcast as a public service. This podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast does not constitute legal advice, nor does it establish an attorney-client relationship. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by ByrdAdatto. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Please consult with an attorney on your legal issues.